This is your host, Neel Reddy Rebala, exploring all elements of the startup world here at Startup Chemistry. Huge growth, right? From four people to 1,100 employees, and then starting with $1 million to now valuation at about billion plus. How did you maintain control over culture, and how did you keep hiring right?
Darwinbox is one platform, at least aiming to solve the entire employee lifecycle. So my sense is first 1 year, founders need to sell the product themselves.
Take us through the process of how you built that MVP and the challenges that you faced during this journey.
So today we work with close to 850 clients. So we manage close to 3 million end users.
The feedback and the iteration loops, probably your product evolved even while you were getting into MVP, right? Like, how did you get the feedback? How did you make those incremental changes?
3 challenges that would keep any founder awake is hiring right people, retaining them, and essentially basically business growth.
What really went behind you winning your first sale, and then how did you get it? So how did you think about capital allocation? What are your priorities?
One thing I definitely see is a company having a sales guy in the first month is a red flag for me.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Startup Chemistry. This is your host, Neel Reddy Rebala. Have you wondered how these unicorn founders approach things? In this particular podcast, we're going to explore exactly that. And to make things even better, our guest today is somebody that a lot of Indians can really relate to. There are so many middle class Indians out there who are aspiring to, be successful entrepreneurs, build successful startups. And our guest today has done exactly that. We have with us today Chaitanya Peddi, the co-founder and product head of Darwinbox, a local unicorn that is trying to be a global champion based out of India. Darwinbox builds in the HR tech space. We're going to explore in this particular episode the journey of Darwinbox and also the journey of Chaitanya, who's built Darwinbox. Hi, Chaitanya. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Hey, hi Neil, I'm good. Thanks for having me here today.
It's a pleasure, Chaitanya. Thanks for taking time out for us. So, how does it feel like to be a unicorn founder? That's a big deal, right?
I mean, it is, first of all, it is just a milestone or more probably a function of how market is seeing you. So because a unicorn is it is just $1 billion market cap, so which is a function of the markets and a lot of other external factors. So it felt good when we reached that milestone. It certainly felt good, but then obviously that happiness is short-lived because obviously it is always a day one for a founder in a startup. And to be honest, like I said, we never tracked this milestone very seriously. So it is all about building a good product, a great product from India for the world, and then building a great company, especially a company where we wanted to, or we always want to assimilate great people working together, producing, something great. So that has always been the focus. So when obviously you focus on good things and execute well, good things bound to happen. So I mean, probably that is just one of those milestones and good things that happen to the company.
Got it, Chaitanya. Can you introduce Darwinbox in your words, Chaitanya? There's a lot that is out there about Darwinbox. A lot of people know, but still would love to hear from the mouth of the founder.
Yeah, sure. See, luckily, while we are in enterprise technology business, so the segment we operate in, which is in a human capital, it is very easy to understand and relate to almost by everyone. So if you look at the journey of an employee or a candidate, so when it comes to present or prospective organization, so what it means is, let's say you want to work in a company. So what do you do? Just imagine your journey. First of all, say you want to work in Google or Facebook or whatsoever, Microsoft. Do you go through their careers website? and then you look at the openings, and then if you find anything suitable and interesting, so then you apply to that opening. Then in the back end, someone basically screens your CV. And then if they find you as a fitment, then basically they shortlist you. Then, it goes through certain levels of interviews. It can be, some of them can be virtual or in person. Some of them can be just assessments, no interviews. And then finally they decide to probably give you the offer. So then, there is a big process behind that. How much salary to offer, how much you are asking, what is the market norm? And then depending on where you're being hired, how much salary being offered, it goes through, certain levels of approval. Then you accept the offer. Then in a few days before onboarding starts. So even before you come onto the company, you need to fill in a lot of data, your previous pay slips, and then, your certificates, etc. Someone verifies all of, be it be the company itself or probably outsourced to a background verification vendor. So then finally, everything is set. One fine day, you come on board and join the company. So that's where, your day one starts in the company. One of the things I said happened before you even join the company. Then once you join the company, then again, there are a lot of things. So your profile needs to be maintained. And then more importantly, your attendance and leave should be managed. And then every month you should be paid accurately. Your taxation and compliances should be managed. If you take India, so every month or every quarter at a certain frequency, you need to uh, be compliant to so many things. So because, when people are working with you, you need to submit a lot of reports, PF, PSI, all that stuff. So what it means is net, you need to pay someone in accurately and first of every month, and then, submit all the compliances accurately from payroll. And then probably your role end of the year, yeah, beginning of the year, your goals need to be set. First of all, what you want, what you need to deliver in the year. End of the year, or throughout the year, at a certain checkpoints, people need to see how you are doing well. So if you require some intervention to be done, end of the year, depending on how you perform, some rating comes, and then, depending on that, you get a promotion or a salary hike. So, and then, you also want to grow in the company, right? You want to know after 5 years or 10 years what you want to do. So someone has to come and guide you and set that career path for you. So you want to become a CEO in 10 years. What it means is, you need to start working now. So for developing certain skills, and also some learning happens. So one fine day, you finally decide to exit the company. So then when you resign again, it goes through approvals, and then there is the exit interview, that's a full and final. After you left the company, also you become alumni, and you can actually access alumni portal, and you can still download, pay slips and all. You can raise certain queries. Say, your effective settlement is not what you were thinking, and you think, there's some error there. So if you look at employee life cycle, hire to retire, the journey of an employee hire to retire, it is very, very vast and complex. So Darwinbox manages the entire thing, so very seamlessly. And the value proposition is, if you have Darwinbox, so most likely you don't need any other system to manage this whole thing. So that is
Got it.
what we do. So
Mhm.
second is the focus segment. We primarily focus on enterprise segment. So generally, average client size would be around 4,000 employees, like that.
Right. I was looking at the numbers of Darwinbox. It's like 2 million plus employees and many, many MNCs, hundreds of firms. And so it's a unicorn today, as mentioned. How did the day one, or like, let's even, take a step back, not even day one, like, how did the idea come into your mind? And how did Darwinbox uh, get started?
So three of us started this, Jayant, Rohit, and myself. All of us are accidental entrepreneurs.
Uh-huh.
I'd be lying if I say, I always wanted to become an entrepreneur. So, which is not true. So I was very, very happy and doing my corporate job. I was
Mhm.
actually quite happy. I was working with Ernst and Young. So I always wanted to grow there and probably become a partner uh, of my practice one fine day. That was my life ambition. So it's but obviously life had different plans for me. So I happened to meet Jayant there. He was my colleague. in understanding. I was in consulting practice, and Giant was in investment bank practice. So through Giant, I met Rohit. They knew each other for quite some time since childhood. So through a cousin of Giant. So Rohit was working in McKinsey. He was in digital transformation strategy consulting. So, like I said, all of us were doing quite well and quite happy with our careers. So, what happened? So, in investment banking, whenever a deal happens, be it be raising the capital or acquiring a company, so it starts with due diligence. So, typically, you assess the health of the company you want to invest in or you want to acquire. So, diligence is primarily it's audit, right? I mean, you ask a lot of questions, you get the responses, and then you evaluate those responses, and accordingly, you give your final verdict. Is it in a good shape or a not so good shape? If in not so good shape or a good shape, what are the flags, red flags that are there? So that is the diligence. Typically, diligence happens on in any organization. There are three fundamental systems of record. The system where you record your financial transactions, the system where you record your sales and customer related transactions, the system where you record all your employee data and transactions. These are three fundamental systems of record. So, and diligence also typically happens on these three systems. So, finance and uh, customer or a sales diligence uh, used to happen very easily. People seem to have clean data, etc. But HR diligence always used to be very difficult and night. So, for example, even if you go to uh, sizable companies and ask data something as simple as even today, a lot of companies struggle if you tell them, what is your headcount today and how it trended over last 12 months or what is the attrition and then what is the regrettable attrition. What it means is, how many top performers you left. So people used to struggle. And so typically HR diligence always used to get stretched beyond the planned timelines. So that's where, out of curiosity, we just dig deeper. So because we thought, okay, it is very very matured and established segment.
Mhm.
So how come such fundamental problems still exist? So and Rohit also echoed the same in when he is doing digital transformation projects. So one system that people generally not happy with or find a lot of problems implementing is actually HR system, not your ERP or finance CRM. So we thought, okay, there is something wrong here. So let us try to understand. And that's where we started meeting CHROs and CIOs in our network because we were in consulting and client facing. At least okay, we could open some doors for ourselves and we could meet people. We tried understanding the pain point. So that's where we saw few gaps or patterns, problem areas that exist commonly across all the clients that we met or commonly across all the people we met. So that's where, we thought if you build a product, bridging these gaps. So, for example, one thing, you need to notice is when we started or even now, we are not doing anything that is new or fundamentally different. So this is a fairly established segment that's been there for probably for last 35, 40 years
Mhm.
with the very, very matured and established players. So, but still, we thought, okay, if these four or five things, if we solve, we fix, then there is still opportunity for us to create the dent in this segment, which is seemingly very crowded and mature. That is how, we started.
Mhm. So, three of you friends, work colleagues came together. You identified a particular problem. You did a lot of market research to audience. Something that Chaitanya shared with me earlier was they many firms. They sat down with them, asked them if it was really a problem, and then they figured out and established that this truly was a problem that has to be solved. So getting back to it, Chaitanya, you came together, identified a problem, you established it was truly a problem, and then you started solving for that, right? So now let's jump to your day one. Now that you've decided to solve for this problem, what kind of a solution did you want to offer, and Can you talk about the kind of seed money that you had, and talk about your day one, please?
Okay. It's going to be a long answer, Neil, so you have to be patient with me. So
Absolutely.
before that, okay, you asked, right, I mean, what kind of product we wanted to build. So before this, I told you we identified a few patterns or
Mhm.
gaps that are common across all the conversations that we had with folks from HR and IT departments when it comes to HCM software. So first thing is, like I said, Darwinbox is one platform, at least aiming to solve the entire employee life cycle. So as simple as it sounds. And second is we wanted to focus on enterprises, mid and large enterprises. So what it means is you're trying to solve for high scale and of course high complexity as well. I mean, the bigger the size of the organization, the complexity also increases. For such organizations, when we started, especially in India and Southeast Asia, we felt there is not a single system that actually effectively solving the entire employee life cycle because there are very few players that are actually aiming to solve for this segment. I mean, I can take names as well. So SAP got a cloud product called SuccessFactors. Oracle got a cloud product called Fusion HCM. Then
Mhm.
Workday is the market leader in Western countries. So if you look at it primarily, at least in India, Workday is pretty much absent in Southeast Asia. So you primarily have two choices, SAP and Oracle. So, but these companies, they're always they're very Western or American focused companies. So, for example, neither India nor Asian markets or are work priorities for them. For example, probably not a single product manager sits here
Mhm.
and understand the regional nuances and solve for this region because, as I said, this is not a priority market for them.
Can you highlight a particular nuance that is different between India or other markets?
See, for example, there are a lot. Maybe I'll highlight a few things. For example, one simple thing could be the way we manage or keep time.
Mhm.
So if you take a time management, attendance and leaves, etc. So everything is days for us. Okay, so you don't apply leave or whatever in hours. So
Yes.
for example, it is in hours. For example, if you get a Western built system, then you need to apply for 8 hours of leave on a particular day rather than 1 day leave.
Right. Right.
So second is we are very very manufacturing heavy geographies.
Mhm.
All the manufacturing typically happens on eastern part of the world, right? Because of obviously the cost benefit, etc. So the minute manufacturing comes into picture, so your rostering attendance becomes very complex. So the way we manage attendance, the rostering, the shifts, etc., is very very different from how West manages.
Got it.
And one more thing is very interestingly, so we speak a lot about conglomerates, right? I mean, it's basically one large a family or a business, who do pretty much everything. Or, they do a lot of businesses. For example, if you take Tata's or Reliance, they pretty much do everything possible on the planet. So they're into everything. So very interestingly, conglomerates is very very specific to Asia. So if you go to West, you see very large companies, but doing only one thing. So you can't even imagine General Motors thinking of doing anything other than manufacturing cars. Okay, so but if you look at Tata's, car manufacturing is just one of the businesses. So here, so we are very ambitious as people. The minute we cross certain threshold, we want to get into a lot of other businesses as well. So any company generally over 4,000, 5,000 employees, most likely into different businesses. So what
Got
it means is if you take probably Jindal as an example, JSW as an example. So it's our client. So they have a steel manufacturing. They have a cement manufacturing. So they probably have a high tea company. They have a aviation company basically to manage their own flights and fleet and all. So and also to manage their own airports. So if you take one company, it's actually not one company. So there are every company is into different sector altogether. So what it means is, so they want a central control at the same time decentralization at a legal entity or a sector level. So now it really stresses the system's capability in terms of managing, so many sectoral nuances, and also how do you manage, permissions. So for example, they want to give 80% of access at a particular group company level. They want to still control 20% centrally.
Right.
Companies need to feel, okay, we are independent, we are running our own systems, but at the same time, they also need to have some sort of, basically monitoring and direction from corporate hedge. So these things are very, very unique. What it means is you need to have a highly flexible, robust, and system that can manage, role-based access controls, very, very well. So yeah, quite unique.
Got it. So
So
that is a nuance. So these nuances were different, and yeah. Taking you back to the
so yeah. So now we felt because the current products are not handling the geographical nuances. uh, Despite people investing in those companies, you still see they buying a lot of point solutions for managing different
Mhm,
parts of employee life cycle. For example, they would have a different system for sourcing candidates, different ATS system, a different onboarding system, different performance management system, different talent management system, different R&R system, rewards and recognition system. So when you go to any company, generally you see 15 to 20 systems. So to manage, basically people operations. So we felt, okay, if you build one system that can truly consolidates all these things, obviously, if no one wants to maintain so many systems, right? I mean, if there is one system that can do everything, people want to more. That is first thing we built. We've seen as an opportunity. Second is quite interestingly, this is the only system in a company or enterprises that touches everyone. So you be a CEO or probably a last mile employee. There is one system, they log into from organization's context. It is HR system. So or a HCM system. So what it means is, while it is a B2B system, if you take a supply chain system or a finance system, very few people use that. That very, very well trained. But here you can't go and train everyone. So what it means is it has to be very intuitive as probably uh, a consumer application. So you don't need training for ordering food in Swiggy or booking cab on Ola, right? So similarly, you should build a system which is so intuitive you don't need to get trained probably to apply a leave or regularize attendance or update a code. So that is the second thing. It has to be quite intuitive. Third is here again, 70 to 80% of the logins happen through mobile app because if you look at manufacturing or a retail, etc., even managers also won't get laptops. So, for example, we MAP, there is a Mitra Adipakasa, so it's an Indonesian company. So we manage their entire workforce. So they pretty much manage all the retail distribution for brands for Tommy Hilfiger, then Starbucks, etc. If you go to Starbucks outlet or Tommy Hilfiger outlet, so they won't have access to laptops. So their entire thing is accessed through mobile app. So generally, common sense is you only need to build very high frequent use cases on mobile.
mhm.
So separation is not a high frequent use case. You only design once. So if you
Right.
say, okay, I don't build separation capability on or resignation capability on mobile app, then where do they go and design? So what it
Right.
means is it's pretty much an extension of the web. You need to build everything on mobile. That is also something okay. VPNs lacking
Mhm.
in the current tools. And fourth is most of the tools people are so scared of implementing and maintaining. So because they're so complex from implementation perspective, so you need to hire an implementation partner with certified resources. Most of the times, the cost of implementation and maintenance it generally turns out to be much more than the cost of the licensing of the product. So that's where we wanted to build a very, very not only easy to use, but easy to configure and maintain system as well. For example, Darwinbox today is completely zero code sort of a platform from setup and configuration perspective. So, I mean, if I summarize, a good end-to-end platform, very, very easy to use and intuitive and mobile first and very easy to implement and maintain. So we thought, okay, if you can build such platform, obviously to begin with focusing on India and Asia. So we felt at least okay, in these markets, we will get the business.
Mhm.
So that is the hypothesis. And from day zero, we always wanted to build for enterprise. So
Mhm.
because generally we're typically ambitious people in consulting, we work with large companies. etc. So building such a company, building such a product, enterprise grade product, so to be used by few of the logos that you mentioned, Jindals and Adanis or Mahindras of the world.
Right.
So managing their scale and complexity, obviously technologically, it is very very difficult.
So on day one, you set out to build a product that plugs for all these gaps. So what kind of
Yes.
seed capital did you have, and then like how was it? Just three of you who were just working on these things? What was the team like? Any further elaboration on that?
So one good thing with the uh, enterprise software or software business, B2B or a SaaS business is, see, all you're building is IP, right? And you are selling IP,
Mhm.
technology IP. It is not a very, it doesn't need so much money initially. So if you want to build a consumer brand, so from day zero, you need to spend a lot of money for customer acquisition, branding, and all. So fortunately here, it is not a very high capital intensive business, at least to start with.
Mhm.
So initially for 6 months, three of us, we ran it with our own money. We bootstrapped. So I think back in those days, 2015, we spent or we invested 35, 40 lakhs each. So
That's yeah, 1.2 crores, almost 1.1 to
yeah,
1.2.
so all of us did well in EYs and making use of the world. So fortunately, we had a decent bank balance because bonuses are generally good in banking and consulting. So uh,
Yeah.
so we invested our own money, whatever we earned in our jobs. So after 6 months, first round happened. Seed capital happened. So India, Mr. Satish Andhra and team, they wrote the first check. It was about, it was close to $1 million sort of a round. So in that round, we also got Mr. Mohandas Pai on board, the same
Oh.
round.
Mhm.
So 314 capital. So that is where we got first check.
Got it.
So, but we comfortably we could manage for so for 6 months. Probably we could have managed for a little longer as well. So with
Mhm.
our own money, because initially only three of us were there. We were not taking any salaries, and then we hired the first person came on board. So who really built the product
Mhm.
grounds up? So did all the hard work is our CTO, current CTO. We need so he and maybe few others were there. It was almost I think 8 to 9 people team.
Mhm. Got it.
So
Um,
yeah.
So two follow-ups here, Chaitanya. I mean, one of it you kind of answered when you said the market potential. When you were thinking about it, you mentioned India and Asia were your target
Mm.
markets. So, did you do any kind of evaluation in terms of numbers, like what could be the TAM or things like that?
So I still remember, very vividly remember, it was a very tricky and difficult exercise. So many, I think almost every founder goes through this because you don't find any source where you straightforward gets okay, basically TAM for your business. So, but that is the first thing any investor asks. So it is part of every pitch deck. So in our case, we looked at a number of companies with more than 500 employees in India.
Hmm.
So we thought, okay, at least over 500, you definitely need some system. So Excel would stop working for you if you want to manage all the people operations on Excel sheet. So then we got some number. Then uh, if you look at approximate probably per employee per month sort of cost and then multiply with number of these companies with the average headcount, then you get a total market size. So, but the tricky part is some of it would still be on premise. So, because we are a pure play 100% SaaS company, we don't do any on-prem installations. So then these guys only migrate over the time, right? I mean, overnight they don't migrate. So there were many such variables, but eventually we came, obviously this calculation became more and more accurate over the time. So because, your data availability also becomes better compared to
Right.
the early days. I think today it is around a 5 billion market in
Mhm.
India, enterprise HCM space.
You
So
mean to say 5 million USD annually or like
5 billion, 5
billion?
billion
Right.
USD,
Right.
5
5
billion
billion.
USD. Yeah. So if you take world, then across the world, it would be a 30 billion sort of a market.
Got it.
So I'm talking about pure, like just a enterprise HCM market,
Mhm. Got it, Chaitanya.
which,
So
we focus on.
the other question, Chaitanya, that I had in my mind is like, yeah, it totally makes sense. You need certain level of complexity for anybody to come and reach out to an
Yep.
external
Yep.
player. So yeah, that's why probably you're touching that mid or large companies, but startups do
Yep.
a lot of these days, that are really quickly scaling up. And even if they're smaller, they still have their own struggle with these kind of employee management and stuff. Like, do you do anything to target those markets to at least now that you have gained scale and stuff?
So, see, quite interestingly, when we launched, if you go to a large company and say, see, I was born yesterday, now, please give me opportunity, they'll say, please take a walk, right? So no one was going to give opportunity. So initially, like I said, in the hindsight, a lot of things basically worked in the favor of Darwinbox. So I can only attribute probably luck or God's grace, whatever you call it, to these things. That is why it's very very foolish to assume, okay, you achieved something, you accomplished something, etc. So luck plays a major role. So why I'm saying that is, uh, when we started, uh, we didn't plan this, so the timing was perfect. 2015, 16, that was the time where startups were booming in the country, and some of the startups have already become sizable and big and growing very fast. To give you an example, when we onboarded Swiggy, they had 500 employees. So today, I think they have around 8,000 employees, just white collar. So the initial set of the people, at least, okay, who were warm towards us and gave us business were startups, because they also wanted not so complex, fairly easy to use and easy to maintain sort of a system. But typically, from the size perspective, they're not very small companies. So these are the companies with 3,000, 4,000, 6,000 sort of headcount. So the minute, okay, you grow bigger in terms of, headcount, so how much ever you may want to uh, run away from, there will be some inherent complexity bakes in managing people. So they needed a robust system, but a new age system, easy to implement, which their employees also like and love. So most of the initial business got from these startups. For example, our first client was this company called Wunik.
Mhm.
So it was Sequoia funded. I think now they don't exist, but we owe a lot to them. They gave us the first opportunity, and then the first large client was a delivery. So they're still
Which
with
was a
us.
startup
Uh,
back then.
Sorry?
Which was probably a startup back then.
It was probably a startup back then. They were sizable, to be honest. So back then also they had 4,000 employees. Now I think they have around 22,000 employees. So uh, I mean, we're very, very even today proud to be associated with such companies, Swiggy's and deliveries of the world. We started our journey with them quite some time back, and we're very proud because that association still continues after 7 years and 8 years of the journey. In the journey, for example, personally, we've also learned a lot, looking at those founders. So be it Sahil and Kapil, Bhavesh in delivery, Harsha in Swiggy, very very great opportunity. So then eventually, obviously, we started cracking the traditional Indian companies. So, like for example, we started getting people like TVS and then Mahindras and then all the parts of Mahindra, parts of Tatas. Jindal, Vedant, the last people, I mean, obviously, the sector generally the most risk averse, and they should be for all the right reasons, is banking, BFSI. So we started getting insurance and then eventually the banks. For example, today we work with Yes Bank, Ujjivan Bank, HDFC Bank, etc. So yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're in business and your bank bought your business means basically at least on some of the aspects you arrived. If
Absolutely.
you're in software business, yeah.
Um, so, so Chaitanya, now that you mentioned about the various gaps and other things, can you take us through the process of how you built that MVP and the challenges that you faced during this journey?
Yeah. So that's quite interesting. So Neil, if I reflect on my earlier responses, I mean, right, let me reiterate two things we wanted to solve for: building a end-to-end platform, managing entire employee life cycle, and second, solving for enterprises. So now, building such platform, and obviously, we know it may take probably 10 years, if not more. For example, we are in the eighth year and still, I have a 2 years road. So, and I don't have visibility beyond 2 years. I mean, it's not like,
Sure.
we don't have anything to do after 2 years. So, but, obviously you can't wait for so long. So the most critical aspect is getting the MVP, right? So how soon you go into the market and validate your idea. It was even more important for us because, like I said, we are in a fairly established sort of sector segment. So if you don't see markets needing any such any some other such product, yeah, it is very clever to either to pivot to something else or shut the shop and go back to the job. There is no point wasting time, right? So or investing where there is an opportunity. So that was the complex thing. Now the difficulty was uh, what constitutes MVP, identifying that. So
Precisely.
then after our conversations, what we figured out the most important and the fundamental part of any HCM system or expectation from HCM system is your core platform and then your time management platform, leave and attendance, and then basically using both of them, your payroll platform. So, and then for managing all these three things, there should be admin part of the things and also employee self-service and manager self-service. So, if you look at it, these are actually bread and butter of any system. I mean, HCM system. So, these are not at all, basically fancy sort of modules. So, these are basically very operational modules, but we felt, okay, that is where actual pain lies. Then we thought, okay, these and there should be some element of employee engagement also. Otherwise, the system may become too operational. So we wanted to build a, employee engagement sort of a platform where people can interact with each other, post likes, etc. So these are the things that we want to go to market with. So, but that is also a significant things to build. We took our own time, by the way. So, for example, when we started building the product in October, so I was still working back then. So, but Vineet came on board. Uh, um, I was in notice period, and we started working. I mean, after the office and weekends, I used to work. So, first version we launched in May 2016. So, if you look at it, I think we almost took 7 to 8 months. So, from the starting of the product journey to releasing the MVP or first version.
Right.
Uh, but that paid off well. So spending good amount of time to build a complex, a robust product. So then the challenge is, yeah, go ahead, sir.
So yeah, I just want to stop you there for a second because the 6 to 8 months, right? Startup
Yeah.
always functions under constraints. Like here, you don't have a big team, but you had to build this MVP. And did you face any challenges around the technical know-how? You're a single person almost building this. Can you take us through that phase and like how you navigated that?
So luckily, the first person who came on board, our CTO Vinay, he's very very smart. So
Mhm.
he's probably even today one of the top three people that I've seen in my life from IQ perspective.
Wow.
So despite having no background in this particular segment, so I was able to explain him so well. So that a true good harmony between or understanding between product and a tech person, it was found very early in the
Mhm.
days. So I mean, if you ask me, how to accomplish that, I don't have an answer. Like I said, many things are sheer luck. So I was able to explain, and he was able to grasp, very well. So even today, he keeps saying one thing. I mean, which I also wow. Which see, end of the day, programming or developing is not a very difficult thing. It's logic. So if you're clear of what you want to build, so even today, when I speak to an engineer or interview an engineer, that is what I see. So if they understand what they are building, the problem that they are solving, so like most likely and highly likely, they will actually build. So I think that was the first thing. One thing I want to call out is one big challenge is um, it is actually uh, bringing people on board. For example, building such a platform, it needs, to be honest, a lot of capabilities.
Right.
So, for example, we wanted to build a native apps. We want to build native apps for Android and iPhone. So you need, mobile developers. So how good your first engineer or a CTO is from full stack perspective, you still need a good front end person. So to convert screens into HTML and then converting them into whether it's Angular JS or whatever framework that you're using, React or whatsoever. Then you need a decent, backend database person. So or a good, DevOps and infra team. So to deploy all these things. And from day zero, the most complex thing which people undermine is when you're building enterprise software and selling enterprise software. So people don't give you a roadmap sort of opportunity to bridge any gaps that are there in security. So from day zero, they want a very secured
Right.
application. So, and think of our scenario. So we manage the complete employee data. It's probably one of the most important and data to be managed very well. Right? I mean, a lot of personal data is the PI data is there. So then you need someone who will help you on basically infra security and then platform security, IT security, all those things. So um, it was a nightmare. Obviously, you can't get everyone on board. One, you can't wait for someone. I mean, to hire someone, they come on board and start working. So you need to rely on consultants and basically outsource some of the stuff, etc. So uh, it was one of the toughest times. So basically, I mean, these guys have no accountability. You have to define the scope to the last level. If there is any slight deviation, they come and say, okay, basically you need to pay me more. And then timelines are not respected. Because obviously, I mean, only I can feel them, but the timeline is not as important as it is for you, for them. Right? I think this is going to be the most complex job for any startup. So because especially, I mean, enterprise software, the sheer capabilities that are required are too many, even to build MVP. But, it is very impractical to acquire all those capabilities day zero and have on board. So you need to have a balance between what you are building in-house and what you are outsourcing. But, outsourcing is definitely going to be painful unless okay, you're very fortunate to find someone you can rely on.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Interesting. Um, so you outsourced some of these things, and then you got it built, and then you integrated them, and then that's how you arrived at the MVP. Is that a right understanding?
Absolutely. For example, the entire mobile app,
Uh-huh.
so we outsourced. The entire front end, we outsourced.
Okay. Okay.
By the way, later we had to rewrite the whole thing. Let me call that out as well.
That's very insightful. I mean, some of these things are important to know, Chaitanya, because when startups are building today, they need to make a lot of these decisions and some of these
Yeah,
trade-offs.
yeah,
So, yeah. Uh,
yeah.
so let's talk a little bit also about the feedback and the iteration loops. Probably your product evolved even while you were getting into MVP, right? Like, how did you get the feedback? How did you make those incremental changes and stuff?
So, see, if you look at any company, uh, there are two core skills, okay, building and selling.
Mhm.
Okay, so probably for the first year, including founders, everyone should be doing one of the two things, or both the things, if you can. So that is the only way, stay close to the ground and get the feedback. So for example, if you take delivery or unique, I very fondly remember. So I personally implemented that first account. Okay. So for example, the data cleanup, importing data, configuring everything I've done with my own hands. So which I continued for almost 1.5, 2 years. So there is no other way than, being hands-on and be there operationally involved to get the feedback.
Mhm.
So, uh, and that should be the case for everyone in the org for first 1 year or 2 years. So later, basically specialization in everything comes.
Mhm.
So you can't have, someone specialized and doing only the specialized thing in the first 2 years of the company.
Right.
So, I mean, obviously they're good at, what their specialization is, but they should be open to do, like anything else that is required. For example, the entire Darwinbox, worked on implementation, basically implementing instances for the clients for the first 2 years. So no one was excluded from that. See, that is where the iterations. See, one, again, like I said, we were lucky to get clients who are complex enough at the same time, so who also empathized with us and gave us the opportunity, okay, for us to
Right.
learn from our mistakes or learn from them and then perfect the product. So a reason could be they themselves were startups, so they could empathize back then. For example, I'll give you an example. So uh, delivery went live. That was day one of the live. So we imported everything, we configured everything, and they went live. So when we designed the system, if you take any company, so if you're hiring anyone, etc. So one of the things is you need to tag, okay, office location for him, right? So for example, like maybe take Microsoft or maybe take Jindal. So we designed that as a drop down.
Okay.
So you click drop down, and then delivery is a logistics company.
Yeah.
Now basically almost in every pin code they have an employee.
Ah.
So out of 4,000 or 5,000 they had back then, only 400 are incorporated, or
Mm.
maybe that too only in technology, like 400, 500. Everyone else is on the ground actually running operations. So nothing. And so so they had like maybe I think 5,000 or 6,000 pin codes back then.
Oh my.
So basically that drop down didn't load. Like every time a page opens, it was taking like 1 minute to load because of the drop down. So I'm just telling you, then what is the solution? Obviously, you have to make location as the elastic search. So it can't be a drop down. So that is also the difference between an enterprise platform and SME platform. So for a small company with the two locations, so like not seeing all the locations in a drop down, but having to search in elastic search becomes very irritant. So, but for enterprise, that is required. That is where the fundamental nuances of building both sort of products is also very very different. If you try to force fit enterprise product into SME or vice versa, both the cases clients will be paying.
Mhm.
Then basically the system, for example, imports everything system crashed. To be honest, when they went live, and basically we flew down and we met the founders and we told them, guys, I mean reinforce this because we've never seen this scale before. Give us a week's time. So if we don't solve all the problems in the week and take you live in a week's time, so we ourselves will shut it down and also find you the better partner or vendor. So and they were very very kind and they gave us that opportunity. So till then, if you look at us, so like we were all individuals. So for example, Jayant and I met in EY, known each other for probably 3 years. Rohit and Jayant, and Rohit I met probably 6 months back. Vineet I met him. Vineet I met him like 3 months back. So we're all individuals. So obviously that bond was not still built. That 1 week, okay, basically the entire team came together, sat and with one focus, okay, we drove. So that is where actually we came along as the team. And that 1 week, we were successful. So we could mitigate all the problems and then, took delivery live. And first, obviously, see, you will learn a lot from clients only. So there is nothing like a roadmap that is got sent to a product manager. So you need to understand how people are using your system, and that obviously results in what you need to build. But like I said, another big problem that we faced is we are in a very, very matured and established segment. So what it means is we didn't have luxury to be inferior when it comes to feature parity.
Hmm.
So when they compare with the current products, so I mean, for example, when we go and push ourselves as a competitor to SAP and Oracle, they also compare you on par with SAP and Oracle from feature perspective. So that was again, uh, a major cause for the stress. So because we had to run so fast. We had to build things so fast. So first of all, we need to bridge that feature parity. For example, we used to release every week, then every month. Then now we release every quarter. We don't want to go beyond a quarter though. That was, I mean, like a very relentless. That running we had to do. Even today also we keep running. So, but at least the first 3 4 years, it was brutal. Yeah.
Got it. Like the way it is for all startups, I guess. Um,
Yeah.
that was a very interesting story that you spoke about the feedback loop and then like how you fix things, Chaitanya. Also, tell us the story. What really went behind you winning your first sale, and then like how did you get it? And yeah,
So one thing is I think just before you asked me before this conversation or chit chat, okay, do I invest and what do I see? So one thing I definitely see is a company having a sales guy in the first month is a red flag for me.
okay,
So like I said, so many people may not agree with me, but this is my point of view. Doesn't have to be true. Uh, doesn't have to be true. So my sense is first 1 year, founders need to sell the product themselves. So there is no shortcut. You need to go hit the road, or it could be 2 years also, as long as you can actually stretch that. So you need to go, you need to hit the road, you need to be always on the road, you need to keep meeting people, you need to shamelessly pursue people because people are not waiting in the line for you to go and meet. Okay,
right,
and go and explain your value proposition, why they should buy. And initially, first 1 month or 2 months, people it doesn't make any sense for the people listening to you. Then you sharpen your pitch. Okay, so then people start responding to that. Then again, you modify. Eventually, you get that perfect pitch. There is no shortcut for doing this. So 1 year or till that time, it becomes so unmanageable that okay, you're getting so many inbound inquiries that you are not able to spend bandwidth on managing all those inquiries. Founders need to sell. So that is when you need to hire the first salesperson. So in Darwinbox also, I think we hired the first salesperson probably 1.5 year later.
hmm,
We started. So three of us, we were selling ourselves. So primarily, one thing is because we were in consulting background, at least we could reach out to our clients and then their references, etc. Then when a good investor comes on board, obviously they also help you with sales motion. For example, first client Unique. So my batchmate Raja was CHRO,
your batchmate
uh,
from Excel, right?
XLRA. So he was heading HR there. So I went and I met and I literally told him, I blackmailed him emotionally. So I mean, if you don't buy, basically I'll shut the shop. So what the hell? Look, if you also don't trust me, okay, who would trust me? So the poor guy, barged in and took me to the founder, and luckily he also liked us. So we got the business. So delivery again, Rohit knew one of the founders before. So we met and he said, guys, I mean, I don't want to influence this decision, but people felt you are too young for us. So that is why you are not in the consideration set. We told him, all we request is, just to give us one opportunity to present your. So he said, okay, go and present. That meeting I can set up. Go and meet our HR team.
Hmm.
Okay. And it is up to them. Okay, post this. Okay, don't come to me. Don't ever come to me again with this. Then we met the HR team, and then we were able to convince them. To be honest, all these folks, they were so kind. They just, liked us as people because there was no product that was so likable back then, and took the risk. In fact, put their head on the line and gave us the business. I mean, very very grateful for these initial set of clients.
That's amazing. So that's how a startup sells. It's for its
Yeah.
first few customers. Interesting. Uh, Chaitanya, so let us talk a little bit about your first fundraise also, because that is one of the things that a lot of startups struggle too with, right? Product, first sale, and then fundraise. Uh, Take us through the journey. How did you do your first fundraise, and how did you sharpen the pitch deck for that, or like whatever?
So June 2016 was when the fund rise happened.
Uh
So
huh.
like I said, just probably a month before we launched the product.
Uh huh.
So in that first month, I think we only had one or two clients. I mean, Unik was there. I think there was one more client was there. Uh, so small company. They also don't exist anymore. Uh, but we were in talks with few good logos. For example, delivery we were pursuing. Back then, Voyo we were pursuing. So they're our client now. So some of other logos we were pursuing. So then, Satish from India, he visited. Um, See, we started out of a penthouse, fifth floor of a building. That building luckily belonged to Giants in-laws.
Okay.
So first 1 year, I don't think we paid them any rent. So that was also the reason why we picked. But we still retained that penthouse. I mean, it was a sort of a lucky charm for us. Uh, a small penthouse which can sit 10 people to work comfortably, and there was another attached bedroom and bedroom with attached toilet. So Vineet used to live there.
Mhm.
So that was another story, very funny story. So why he came here and where he lived. So then Satish came, Satish and team came. So like we were like, that whole setup was so casual and probably to some extent shabby also. We were just we were worried. Okay, what sort of impression we were leaving? We didn't have a conference room, etc. So still, okay, they met us, they listened to us, and they've seen whatever we built, the MVP and the traction, etc. End of the conversation, I don't know what Satish had seen. He said, "Guys, I'm investing. I liked you guys.
Mhm.
I'm going to invest." So it didn't take much time. So he confirmed just the end of the meeting, the same day.
Wow.
So Abhishek, as you know Abhishek as well.
Yeah.
He was also there in the squad that visited us along with Satish. So they just had some conversation right after the meeting, and they told us, okay, we are going ahead. So there was no diligence also. Like what diligence they do? So it was very fast process. We hit the money. For many of us, that was the first time seeing a seven-digit number in the bank account.
Mhm, mhm. Wow.
So, I mean, eight-digit number with seven zeros actually. So,
Yeah, that
very,
is
very,
something.
very fun.
That is something that I noticed, Chaitanya. India, right? Like Abhishek also like was quite enthusiastic proponent of you and Darwinbox for this conversation too, and that's how we are connecting, right?
Uh,
What did you show them? Like it was not probably a fully baked product as such, although you had your first couple of clients, and then you were just making some traction in the market. Was it that? What in your reflection? What did you think that
I
you
think he
showed?
liked the team and invested.
That's
There
it.
is nothing else, no other reason. So, I think that is how any seed or angel investment be.
Hmm.
Um, I think that is what, for example, I still recall an incident. So, after one of the recent rounds, uh, so basically, diligence took almost now any large deal diligence almost takes 1 to 2 months. So it is highly structured. One of the big four come and they do detailed diligence. due diligence on so many things. So it is so painful, which actually, I mean, the irony is that only led us to start this company. So, uh, then one day I met Satish and I told him, Satish, finally and thankfully the diligence is over. So then he laughed at me and he said, Chaitanya, some people choose to invest after diligence, some people choose to invest, just by looking at the people. So I think he just liked us as a team and invest. And obviously, he also felt there is opportunity for what we are building. First of all, there should be business opportunity, right? I mean, otherwise, no investor comes on board. There, they were convinced. And second, I think they felt okay as a team. We can execute what we are saying. They got that.
And may I ask how much it was chasing at that point of time?
It was close to $1 million.
Close to $1 million. So here you were as a team, you're trying to probably build your team size, you're trying to sell improved product to your clients and stuff like that, and you got $1 million in the bank now. So how did you think about capital allocation? What are your priorities?
So one thing, Neil, see, all of us, three of us came from a middle class or upper middle class sort of a backgrounds.
Hmm.
So we are generally very, very stingy people.
Hmm.
So, and we are very proud of it. So generally, Darwinbox, we never, threw money or take pride in just spending money. We're very conservative when it comes to spending money. So that is where obviously we didn't do any party or some founder US visitor when we got $1 million.
Hmm.
So first thing we have done was with the money we wanted to get as many good engineers as possible.
Hmm.
Uh, uh, so we were only marginally successful
Hmm.
back then because if you remember 2016 there was a bloodbath in the market for tech talent.
Hmm.
Like, all heavy rounds were happening in Bangalore. Basically, every guy is getting a probably 100% hike just in 1 month. We tried our best. So we could get in a few good folks. Didn't have to think too much about, paying them, if not a lot, but at least on par with the market because first 2 years, every hire, all of us used to interview.
Hmm.
And we used to convince them based on basically giving them conviction of the story and what we are building rather than purely throwing money and
Right.
getting them on board. So, but at least, okay, you are in a comfortable position. So we got most of the investment had gone into R&D only.
Hmm.
So I think, we started taking some salary and lakh a month
Okay.
back in those days. So that in fact, Satish only pushed us. He said, guys, I mean, take something. So should definitely take very kind of him. Then what have we done? So office, we like till the next round, we haven't changed the office. We continued working out of that penthouse only. And we also got the next level of leadership primarily for marketing. I mean, one of my engineering batchmates and Rohit's MBA batchmates, Gautami, came on board.
Hmm.
So, because we realized if you want to sell to enterprise, whether you accept or not, you need to build a brand. Okay, people like to buy from the brands because brand is a proxy for less risk. Right? Why do you buy a branded a garment or anything because you think it
Brand.
comes with a certain quality and there is no risk and you're paying premium for that.
Right.
So and so marketing becomes very very critical, customer acquisition. So we got her on board and then we started spending a little bit on events and marketing. So most of the things we spent on R&D and marketing.
Got it. Um, some of the points that you mentioned, Chaitanya, like R&D, marketing, great, but then the hiring part also, that actually leads me directly to the next question, right? Um, for any startup in 0 to 1 phase, like what would your advice be to those startups or founders? Because again, a lot of constraints, you don't have a lot of money to throw around, and you have to be very it has to be a tightrope walk, but you want really good quality talent to build your product. So do they have to do vesting?
So, unfortunate truth is only people who would join you in the early stages. over the people who knows you for quite some time. And they would, again, like an investor comes on board looking at people in the very early stages. Employees also come on board, like in basically looking at three of you, looking at the founders or a founding team. So because there is no brand, there is no guarantee that it will be successful. And if you take, and there is nothing wrong in that, right? I mean, from the person's perspective, that is a big risk. Why would you take that risk unless, okay, he's so convinced and likes you? So I think if possible, as much as possible, so founders should tap their personal network and get the first 10 or 20 people hired.
Got it.
So that is the best way. The challenge is depending on the background of the founders. So tapping certain talent pools would become difficult. For
Mhm.
example, in our case, tapping tech talent pool became difficult because we all have taken uh, MBA path. So, for example, if you take a company with all tech founders, tapping business talent would become very difficult.
Right.
So that is where so probably the first hire should be what skill set that founding team is lacking. So that should be the first person you hire, and he is founding team only, right? Uh, uh, because he's the first hire after founder, so you need to rely on his network. So because there, and second is, see, one thing is you need to keep telling people, okay, this is the problem, we want to hire this, that, etc. So as many people as you meet, someone or other, okay, refer someone, and then one proxy is people should come on board, basically trusting what you are building, listening to your story, and with a conviction about what you are building and about you. Because there is only so much you can fight a salary war, right? I mean, you offer something, there'll always be someone offering more if the guy is really good. So that is how first is tapping your personal networks and or okay, people who are joining you based on the conviction. And for such people, it is all fair, uh, rewarding them with good ESOPs because you only many of them probably may take a salary cut and join. If they really like you, then only upside for them is the wealth that gets created through stocks in the
Right.
future. So, for example, from day zero, one thing is we created 10% of the ESOP pool, and for very long time after every round, we also contributed and ensured that pool never diluted. So, and investors also kind enough, they also contributed. So, you need to reward them very handsomely with stocks. So, but obviously, there also your founder work comes into picture. Your stocks are worth nothing when you're hiring. So, how do you convince them of their upside? Obviously, that is where you tell them okay why they mean something, why how it helps them to generate wealth in the long term, which never happen in a normal career.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Got it. Thanks, Chaitanya. That is very insightful perspective on the 0 to 1 phases of a startup. So, how can you take us through from that phase where you had 3 or 4 people to where you are in terms of employees or the clients or the sales or the valuation as of today?
So today we work with close to 850 clients. So we manage close to 3 million end users. So covering across 850 clients. So if you look at it, it's around 4,000 per client. I mean, tallies with what I told you, average clients. Then we today we are present in India. India is still a major market for us. We also expanded to Southeast Asia. We have offices in Singapore, Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, and Malaysia. We also expanded to Middle East. So we office in UAE, and from that office, we serve all the GCC countries. So a few months back, we started our journey towards West as well. So we started the US motion. Too early to say anything about it. So that's where we are. We have around 1,100 employees. And last valuation, last round, we raised our money in 2022 Jan. It's almost 2 years. It's
Yes.
been 2 years since we raised. So the last valuation was around $1 billion.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean the current valuation I don't know. I mean, obviously, unless we raise around. But post that, probably we did a few rounds. Luckily, many companies had to uh, had to down revise the valuation. Luckily, we could at least hold the valuation
Mm-hmm.
in the rounds that we had done later in mostly in uh, early 2023. So yeah,
Sure.
but post that round, we between Jan 2022 and now, we almost we grew a little more than doubled sort of our revenue.
So yeah, probably whenever you do the next valuation, there's going to be a huge leap again. Uh,
No, I mean, like I said, it's a function of the market.
right. So,
Multiples. You know?
so given this huge growth, right, from 4 people to 1,100 employees, and then starting with $1 million to now valuation at about billion plus, how did you maintain control over culture, and how did you, keep hiring right?
See, one, to be honest, I would be lying if I say we perfected it, and we know the answer. So some mistakes do happen. It is not like okay, we never done hiring mistakes, etc. So, but what, at least certain things that worked for us were very early in our journey. We, for example, even before we officially started company, three of us, we did an exercise. So we sat together and I was a consultant, HR consultant as well, right? So I ran that session. So we agreed on what is our vision, what we want to do, and what are the values that basically we want to uh, have for the company, etc. We agreed on those. So from then, obviously, we refined them later. So from very early on, we set values, right? So what are certain values? You call them values or operating principles. For example, one of the values is we say designation doesn't okay when it comes to saying the right thing. So we encourage that. So and then see if you go to any of our offices, so like all the conference rooms, everything. Basically, we do a lot of propagation of those values to employees, and we try to live them as much as possible. For example, see, one thing you should do is see you can't control every hire. Then the question is how do you propagate the culture? So the answer is I mean. Uh, the top leadership, especially founders. So as much as you are living them and people seeing that, then it automatically gets propagated. So for example, we say transparency is a value. So when we do all hands, so every month we do all hands, and every quarter when we do all hands, so we very transparently we talk about the growth of the company and what is current ARR that we are sitting with, what is the bond that we have, how much time we have. Uh, and so, uh, I mean, from capital perspective, so we generally many companies probably they don't very openly speak about these things, especially when you're a private company. But we very openly share all these things. So frugality is the value. So, for example, we always take a flight with the lowest cost. So we don't stay in very fancy hotels. We still try to optimize as much as possible. Then generally, it propagates, right? I mean, these guys only basically they don't travel expensive flights or they don't stay in expensive hotels. Then automatically it propagates. So these things matter. For example, so when we wanted to hire leadership externally, so there were there were sort of stalemate conditions on the business class travel. For example, they say, guys, I mean, we never travel economy, especially for inter-country sort of a travel. So how can you not have a policy? At least, okay, VPs should have a business travel, etc. So we took time, but we clearly told them, boss, it's not going to happen. Okay, so because frugality is our value, and India and probably just for the sake of example, Singapore, it is a 4 hour journey. It is absolutely fine traveling economy. We don't travel ourselves. Why do you want to travel? And we also tell them, if you want to upgrade, and upgrade personally. We don't have any problem. So, uh, for example, so there are some people probably would have gone back also because so they're not okay with some of the benefits or some of the things are not being there. So when you're able to at least you can define what are the values of the company and you start living, then that is more effective. People seeing and then talking about that, then how much ever PR you do internally. And when people understand and when they see, okay, basically leadership and founders are living them, then they also try to live because I mean you call it a pressure or you call it inspiration or whatsoever. So that is the only way.
Got it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the product and the market a little bit, Chaitanya. So let's begin with the product. You spoke about like the initial gaps that you identified and how you tried plugging them. Now, over the years, like how did the product evolve? If you have to reflect upon the changes and the evolution of the product, what would be the couple of things that come on top of your mind?
The product has become very, very big. So it's a very, very huge product and uh, it became very robust and also complex.
Mhm.
So, for example, initially, at least till 2 years or 3 years, I can vouch if someone puts their mind and just open the config page, they can learn. Today, I don't think it is that simple.
Mhm.
So, for example, earlier there were many people who knows the product end to end. Today, even I don't know the complete product, being head of the product. So it became very, very vast and robust and complex.
Mhm.
So we started with 3 modules, right? I mean, I told you core, time, and payroll. So today we have 18 modules. So we covered most of the spectrum across employee lifecycle that we are really wanted to cover. So we sell almost 46 or 47 SKUs.
Mhm.
So to the clients. So so one thing I want to probably mention is, I mean, so it's a moment of pride for us. So, but then obviously, should not become a reason for arrogance. We are the only and youngest player to get placed on Gartner's Magic
Right.
Quadrant. So, Magic Quadrant is probably the most prime piece of real estate for any enterprise software company to be placed upon. So in our fifth year itself, we got placed there. And that too in a segment meant for enterprise HCM systems.
Mhm. Mhm.
Very clearly, you need to be an end-to-end player and also enterprise player. So, and we are the only company from Asia, not only from India, to be placed out there. So, one thing is, so the youngest after us was Workday in that quadrant.
And that's
You can
amazing.
imagine that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they started in 2003 or so. And average revenue of every company in that quadrant is close to $3 billion. We are at a much, 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 much lesser than that. So, but that probably that represents the strength of the product, right? So, product, I can confidently say it came off its age. So, it evolved quite well. So, because we had no choice, probably that is the reason to compete and survive in the market. We built very fast and got on par with
Mhm.
the competition, probably better than them in some of the areas. So that's where we are sitting today. So now it is important. Basically, we also show the revenue profile, reflecting the
Mhm.
product that we have built.
Yeah. So that's why initially at the start, Darwinbox was called a local firm that's becoming a global champion. The influence of what is happening with AI, and then like people analytics by itself growing into be a different thing for large organization. I mean, a big thing. Um, how are you tackling those?
So let me talk separately about AI and people analytics.
Hmm.
So people analytics, Neil, the challenge is everyone knows. So what metrics to track?
Hmm.
Okay, how probably a cost or a headcount or acquisition dashboard should look like. But the problem is basically data. If you
Right.
have data in the backend, so I mean, it could be coming from one source or multiple sources, but neatly sitting in a warehouse, so or a data lake, then building a analytics interface is not a big deal. Okay, so you can build your own layer, or there are multiple tools, Power BI, Tableau, so many tools. So um, see, on this front, we could only do so much, okay, historically, because like I said, it is also function of availability of the data.
Right.
So, uh, uh, so, but at least one thing what we have done is we built a strong studio or extensibility sort of a layer.
Hmm.
So we were not able to build, to be honest, all the requirements that clients wanted, because most of those data points were sitting outside Darwinbox earlier. But at least we were so quite flexible to push the data wherever they want, so that people can then build their own dashboards. But now, at least in the last 1 year, we hold majority of the data across employee life cycle. We have all the modules. So now suddenly, see, our offering on that front, basically, we took a largely very, very robust offer, because we own most of the data, and we built good pipelines for data to sit in a data warehouse and get refreshed at the real time rates. So, like I said, first 6.5, 7 years of the journey, I don't call ourselves that good from
Hmm.
native offering perspective. Now, basically we are pretty good. So either you own the entire data, or you should have a great platform to push the data to somewhere else, so that people can build the
Right.
dashboards. On AI front, Neil, see, we never call ourselves AI first or a AI driven company, or a company built on AI. So we are not. So we solve very, very fundamental and operational problem. So we are a good ERP manage complex people operations. So, but having said that, if there is a use case which can be solved more effectively through either ML or AI, so basically we definitely leverage that.
Hmm.
So what it means is the use case or a module precedes AI. So not the vice versa. We don't say there is AI, so now let us solve something using.
Hmm.
So, for example, I'll give you an example what I mean. So, one of the very common use cases is obviously service delivery, answering people for any query. So many a times, you ask queries. So from your policies on, you ask, okay, can I travel business class? How much relocation expense I can claim? Okay, so something like that. Maybe things like when do I get increment? What is the performance philosophy? All these are essentially things that are sitting in your HR policies, which people don't have time to open and read.
Right.
So now we exposed a bot which goes through all the documents. Okay, you don't need any training also, thanks to the new language models and all. So vector databases and language models. So you just attach, we have all the policy documents attached. Another challenge is, you can't answer from a document that is not relevant for him. So if a male employee in India asks, okay, what is my maternity leave? You should not say you can take 6 months.
Right.
So the applicability check is very, very important.
Hmm.
So then, you ask anything, we basically parse all the documents and able to respond. So we use very, very good vector databases and language models there, basically to get the response that is applicable to the user depending on who is asking, and also to construct that into a colloquial response which is given by the vector database. So like I said, the use case precedes AI. And but last year we've invested significant bandwidth and also money on this area. So we have a good in-house 12 people team doing only this.
Got it. Um, Chaitanya, let's look at the broader things for a bit, right? So, if there are certain things that keep you awake as a founder, even now, what are they, Chaitanya? Are there any in the first place?
So I think, this is probably true for most of the founders. So top three challenges that would keep any founder awake is hiring right people.
Mhm.
Second is basically retaining them. And third is essentially basically business growth. So in the same order, okay, probably the order may change depending on what stage you are in and what is the focus. But at least two of the top three things are basically getting good people on board and retaining them. Because after a point at scale, that would essentially become, founder's major responsibility. Getting very, very good people on board and then, ensuring they're motivated and delivering work and they're retained. Because such people are smart enough to basically take the company ahead. So probably, they're much better than founders themselves, okay, in leading their own functions. So that is the primary thing. So these are the things, that would keep me away.
So now let us focus a little bit on entrepreneurship. Given how successful you were and Darwinbox is, a lot of people are inspired by this journey, right? Like they would be trying to replicate something like this, and India needs a lot of such people. So some insights on what entrepreneurs should do would be great. Covering your background, like where do you come from, and what inspired you to get into any of this, like consulting or entrepreneurship and stuff like that.
So I came from a typical small town middle class family, Neil. So both my parents were teachers. So my mom used to teach science for higher school. My father used to teach maths. Then he moved on to administration side in education department. So I grew up in a very small town for initial 10, 12 years of 12 years of my life. And then later I moved to Guntur. Guntur is also not a very big town. So that's where I completed plus two. Then I came to Hyderabad. So I did my engineering here. It's a college called JNTU in Hyderabad, Kupatpalli. So then, I worked here for 2.5 years in Verizon. So I was a software developer back then, and I went to Jamshedpur for my MBA. Post that again, I worked in Hyderabad. So very briefly, I worked in EY Bangalore as well. But then, I moved to Hyderabad because we got good projects here. There was no one here. So I managed the team here. Then, I started Darwinbox. So larger part of my life, later part, basically, I spent in Hyderabad. And then before that, I was in Guntur and West Malta.
Got it,
That's
Chaitanya. Now let us jump and get some more insights from Chaitanya. If I'm somebody who's trying to evaluate a startup opportunity, how should I go about evaluating whether this is really a problem worth solving?
So, Neil, like I said, I was an accidental entrepreneur.
Mhm.
So, it was not like I always wanted to become an entrepreneur and evaluated multiple opportunities to pick one finally. So, just probably I wouldn't be able to answer that from my first-hand experience. So, but at least what I feel is many a times entrepreneurship may happen accidentally, not very deliberately. So, because you see a problem and you think that is a problem, then what happens is you keep seeing the same problem. So basically, so a lot of serendipity, right? So you keep seeing the same problem again and again. You keep thinking, I think this is definitely a problem. Okay, what solve it? Then what happens is what stops you is basically taking the plunge and taking the risk. So before that, one thing is I'm completely against taking foolish risks. So when you are seeing a problem, it is important to understand why that problem is not solved. It's important to at least, okay, understand the market and around that problem, who is doing what, and speak to few people. Okay, I mean, you don't need to go and tell them, I want to solve this problem. Just, just try understanding why that problem is at least not solved. Or you may end up realizing the problem is solved. There is no opportunity, or solved, but not effectively. There is an opportunity or not solved at all. Then, if you're really convinced, then all that is left is basically taking a risk. So today, at least, unlike earlier, so basically earlier, doing a large business, it is out of even thinking for people like me. Okay. So unless you have certain surname, you can't take risks and aim to build big business. But now, thanks to the spirit of entrepreneurship, a lot of credit goes to the venture capitalists, early venture capitalists. So luckily, a lot of money flew in, and they're betting on entrepreneurs purely on their passion and what they bring onto the table, nothing else. So if you're really passionate about what you want to solve, and there is a real problem, and you also have skill set to solve the problem, so getting capital is not at all a challenge in these days.
Mhm.
So you can comfortably take the risk.
Got it, Chaitanya. Um, so, if one is an entrepreneur and then they're trying to build a platform or a product, what are the top one or two things that they should keep in mind while designing this product or a platform?
More than the product or platform, the idea itself, because product is obviously a function of the problem that you are solving, and the idea that you're pursuing. So one fundamental thing is, see, again, going back to our initial conversation. So asking yourself whether you want to do a P&L business or a high growth business. So if it is P&L business, technically you shouldn't be needing a lot of capital. If there is a business that takes so much capital expenditure and the P&L business, then you really need to ask yourself, because you need a lot of leverage, and that's where you need some surname for doing that. So if it is knowledge based business, a simple question, and you want to build a high growth business which needs external capital. So it's very simple. The first question that you ask is the problem that you are solving or what you are building. So the total addressable market size, it should be big enough. There might genuinely be a problem. That problem is not big enough from a market sizing perspective.
Mhm.
So then, it probably at best becomes a P&L business, or there is no business at all. So because when an investor comes on board, they would only invest if the market is billions of dollars worth. The opportunity is billions of dollars. If it is few $1 million, then no one is going to invest. So, and the second is again, when you're building the product, so whether you are building a very focused product and going deep and solving but one problem better than everyone else. So that is one choice, or you are building a broad problem. So you are not better than the best guy in one segment. You have 10 segments in that value chain. So you can't build both. You can't be basically broad and deep. So that is the second thing. And third is segment. So whether you are focusing on SME or enterprise or a particular sector, so these are the calls that you need to decide on. So all these again a function of basically total addressable market size.
Got it. Got it, Chaitanya. Chaitanya, let's say an entrepreneur is at a slightly later stage where he's already found some traction and stuff. And now imagine a situation where there are multiple routes to revenue, and
Mm.
an entrepreneur definitely would want to make money, right? But then sometimes he might have to make a choice between which path he pursues. So in such a scenario, how does an entrepreneur pick a particular option to pursue?
So I mean, the good answer is least resistance
Mhm.
past, but it is simple to say than to realize what is the least resistance path. I think they need to balance out the size of the opportunity and the risk, because end of every path, or probably at the beginning of every path, the size of the opportunity would be very different. Risk is also very different. You need to optimize both. For example, I'll give our example. So when we started, so we've taken a very counterintuitive approach. People build software for West.
Hmm.
And then, eventually they come to India and Southeast Asia. If it works out, it's cherry on the top. Otherwise, it's good. But everyone builds software for US and other markets. So we built initially for India and Southeast Asia, and then we're going west. So, but US is a very large, probably 4 times the India size when it comes to the size of the opportunity, a TAM perspective for HCM market, because they pay quite well. So now, in the hindsight, probably it is easy to say we should have actually gone to US first. When you look at the price points and the traction, probably we are getting, etc. But India, so because of the base being here, our networks being here, so we were able to leverage and open a lot of channels. And at least, okay, we survived, we matured the product. So the chances of survival would be very less, had we started directly in US. But had we been successful, probably, we would be at a different level than, where we are today. So I think it is a balance between size of the opportunity and the risk associated. So you need to take the call based on basically balancing these two.
Got it. Um, Chaitanya, thanks a lot for your time today. It was really great having this conversation with you. A lot of insights and a lot of takeaways for all the entrepreneurs who are going to be watching this. Again, would love to catch up with you soon and understand different, different aspects of entrepreneurship. But until then, thanks a lot for your time today.
My pleasure, Neil. So thanks again for having me here today. So
Thank you,
I
Chaitanya.
really enjoyed our conversation.
A lot of effort goes into recording these episodes, and if you have found the conversation insightful, do like, follow, and subscribe Startup Chemistry.